Viruses, bacteria, and parasitic organisms have existed for over 3.5 billion years. Most have evolved alongside us, living in our bodies, our soil, our oceans, and our atmosphere. Some are beneficial, some are deadly, but rarely do they defy the laws of nature, as we know them. In 1922, a Soviet geological expedition operating deep in the Siberian tundra unearthed something inexplainable. Initial reports, buried in Soviet military archives and only recovered in recent years, describe the discovery of an ancient permafrost sinkhole roughly 300 kilometers northeast of Yakutsk. Inside, a frozen carcass was found, humanoid in structure, but distorted in ways unnatural. Elongated limbs, blackened, solidified tissue, hollowed eye sockets. At first, the team believed they had uncovered a previously unknown hominid species, possibly pre-human. Samples were taken, stored in lead containers, and transported to a military laboratory outside Yakutsk. Within 2 weeks, the facility was silent. No radio transmissions. No civilian contact. No personnel movements. A blackout. Soviet forces quarantined the area and erased all records of the event. What happened inside remains unclear to this day. But satellite imagery from that time shows the sudden construction of a 10-meter containment dome and the complete abandonment of the surrounding 100 square kilometers. For decades, the world heard nothing. In 1983, reports began surfacing from Eastern Europe, first from rural villages in Belarus, then Poland, Romania, and East Germany. Locals described grotesque figures seen in forests, sometimes standing still for hours, other times seen sprinting through tree lines at a natural speed. At first, authorities blamed local hysteria, war trauma, or hallucinations. Then came the disappearances. Hundreds in the span of weeks. Whole families. No bodies. Just black smears on walls, claw marks on wood, bloodless scraps of clothing left behind. By early 1984, survivors began to speak of the changed ones. People they had once known, neighbors, co-workers, even relatives, transformed into tall, deformed creatures. They retained vague human silhouettes, but their eyes, mouths, and movements were something else entirely. The virus, once frozen beneath the ice, had thawed. And it had adapted. It was spreading. By 1985, the virus had crossed into Western Europe. Quarantine zones were established in Czechoslovakia, Austria, and Italy. Refugees fled in the tens of millions. Governments fell. Civil unrest erupted. Citizens began forming armed militias, barricading cities, and abandoning rural settlements. France initiated full border closure in 1986. Sweden, Norway, and Finland imposed total military lockdowns across northern regions. The United Kingdom declared martial law in early 1987 after confirmed sightings on the outskirts of Manchester. The United Nations activated the Emergency Pandemic Directive for the first time in history. Joint military coalitions were formed to control outbreak zones. But the virus was always one step ahead, changing hosts, changing forms, moving silently through forests, tunnels, and abandoned towns. Across the globe, fear spread faster than the infection. Religious groups began declaring the end times. Political movements rose and fell. The concept of safety dissolved. For the first time in modern history, humanity was not facing a war, nor a disaster, but a fundamental change to life on Earth. It is the position of this committee that the virus is not merely a medical event, but an evolutionary phenomenon. It challenges our definition of life, identity, and survival. The infected are not dead. They are reborn into something else, something adapted for a world after us. They do not seek to spread the virus in the traditional sense. They do not seem to cooperate with one another. Each is an autonomous predator. We are witnessing the rise of a new species. And if current projections hold, humanity will no longer be the dominant life form on Earth within the next 30 years. This brings us to the first type of infected, the poltergeist.